Hello, I'm Lizzie. Every week I'm bringing along a different fold, a piece of origami, and I'm doing this because I think it's a beautiful way of relaxing, making something special, and giving yourself a little bit of time out. There's nothing like doing something to really focus your mind. This week I'm bringing, I think, the most special of all, how to make these gorgeous flowers. Now, I was actually taught how to make a lily. This is a traditional lily by someone who was a patient at UCH, and she asked me to learn. It was completely a new experience for me. She asked me to learn in order to pass it on to others. So when she had had times in hospital, she would make bunches of flowers for nurses and for doctors to say a huge thank you, and she could see what a difference it'd make, and it's a beautiful way of expressing care and thanks. At the moment, really, it's great to be able to make some flowers for yourself as well. I think you should make your own gift. These flowers, believe it or not, are around 8 years old. I made them that long ago, and how fresh and beautiful they are. This piece of origami is a traditional piece. It's a traditional lily. And then actually, the lady who taught me, she also explained how to make a stem, which I'm afraid does involve a bit of glue and scissors, but I think it's well worth it in order to make a lovely bunch. So I'm going to lead you through how to do this. It's a little bit more of a longer one, but I think it's well worth the effort. And if you decide to make yourself a bunch of flowers, you will, by the end of it, have probably remembered it, because it's that repetition that helps you learn. But even if you don't remember it, don't expect yourself to remember it. You'll find that the repetition becomes quite calming as you start to understand how to do it. It gets easier, and then it becomes rather lovely. So I'm going to show you with white paper, because I reckon everyone has paper at home. For this, I would recommend, if you've got any coloured paper at all, you could even colour your own paper. If you maybe have wrapping paper, anything like that, or even magazines, you could make some lovely flowers. There are also some gorgeous origami papers out there. So normally I'd say it doesn't matter, you can absolutely do things out of white, but probably for a bunch of flowers you probably want them to be colourful. If you could, some green paper, but again, you can colour these things yourself and it will still be gorgeous. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to turn the camera around. All of these films are very much dedicated to my colleagues who work in hospital. I'm normally there in person, and this is a way I'm trying to reach you and inspire you during these times. And these bunches of flowers I would actually make for the wards and for reception. I presume at these times of COVID-19 we don't really want things that can't be cleaned, so I completely understand these things are unlikely to be there. So I think at the moment the best we can do is make some flowers for ourselves and cheer ourselves up, and you'll be bringing that with you as well. So first of all, I'm going to get my board and I'm going to get some paper, and here we go. I'm just going to show you with A4 paper. Let's direct this down. That's it. Here we go. So I also do a live fold as well. So if you like the idea of doing something together in time, then join me on a Wednesday at 2 p.m. UK time. So I'm going to take the corner and bring it up here. So in a nice straight line. So the idea with origami, just take your time. Lots of people think that they can't do it. It's actually that they're not slowing themselves down enough, really. I've been careful, so everyone can do this. So slowing it down. I've even worked with people who've had strokes, suffering from MS, really finding it hard to move. But with persistence and determination, it's possible. And I've been really amazed what's possible. You can even do origami with one hand. I've worked with someone who's completely blind. How brilliant! The human spirit, if you really want to do something, there's an awful lot you can do. So we're going to get rid of this rectangle. So to do that, I turn it over. I'm then pulling this back so it sort of meets up with that line. There we go. And again, just taking your time, being accurate. I think it's taking your time that makes it relaxing. We're in no hurry. There we go. And I think out of everything, it's these lilies which always make people smile. There we go. We're going to tear off that. You could use scissors or a guillotine, or a ruler, but actually if you've done a good enough, sharp enough fold, you should be able to just slightly rip that and then put it down on a surface and you can tear it off. Satisfying in itself. There we go. So we've made folded in half triangle. Now our next step is simply to fold it over again. So it was like that. So the two pointy ends, get them to meet. Again, take your time. It's all about being accurate and also giving good sharp folds. That is it for origami. And I always find it very calming actually on YouTube just to watch people's hands. It's about as close as we can get now, isn't it really? How amazing our hands are. What's possible. There we go. So we've made this triangle. So if you play around with it, you'll see that there's two sort of pockets. And if you put your fingers into one of these pockets, push your fingers in and then squash it up to make a square. I recommend putting your finger down to the bottom just because it helps get rid of the wrinkles down there. Because if you haven't got rid of that, then you'll find the square's a little bit off and then everything will start to drift off. So it's about starting well. You start well, it continues well. Start badly, it does get worse. So I recommend the criticalness is actually very good for origami. Enjoy being a little bit critical and getting it as good as you can. That's it. So you see I've made it into a square. So this starts off quite similar actually to other things that we've been making. If you made the flapping bird last week, then it also started like this. So there's these what's called common bases. I'm afraid I still struggle to remember their names for some reason. So there we go. But I remember them more in terms of shapes. So if you turn it around to the other side, you've already got a line there. I think if you fold back along that line, there we go. Then it sticks out like a little sundial. That's what you're looking for. And then it's the same thing again. Put your fingers in that pocket and squash it down, squash it up to make a nice square. And if you're a member of UCLH, one of the staff, then there's also the respite area. There's origami papers that I've ordered there, so you can always take some there to use, because there should be some nice colours. So I think for this one it would be very nice. So think of this as almost leaves of a book. So I recommend just almost turning these pages. You're just sort of limbering up those pages. So going for each one. That's right, limbering it up a bit. There we go. So again, a bit like the other one, if you have one of these lifted up, almost like a little sundial, again, put your finger in. And then again, I recommend getting your finger down just to get rid of the wrinkles there. And then squashing it down. Now you need to make sure that that's all lined up. So the middle, that this lines up together. Again, be critical, because if this is out, then it will affect everything else. Extraordinary, you can make a whole flower out of just one flat piece of paper. It never ceases to amaze me, origami. And it's a beautiful culture because people have made discoveries and they've been so kind to pass it on. So this is traditional, so we don't know who has discovered this. But I think as with all, in a way for all origami, one person's made a discovery, they've shared it, and then other people have developed from that. So it really is a culture, and a really generous, kind one. So thank you to all the people who've spent time figuring this out and passing it on, and they knew that it would help others and make them smile. So that's what I'm also trying to pass on as well. So hopefully it looks like that, sort of a kite. Turn it round to maybe to the back. Lift up any of these flaps. Again, there's a little flap there. Put your finger into that pocket and squash it down. Again, make sure there's no wrinkles at the top. And make sure it's all lined up in a single line. So this is something I quite commonly do on the wards with patients being treated for cancer, and encouraging them to use time as an opportunity and do something special that they thought they'd never do, or lots of people remember doing origami as children, maybe making the chatterboxes or paper aeroplanes. It often brings back happy memories of being with friends. I think most of us have done that. I don't really remember doing that much origami as a child, actually. I would make things up a lot rather than following instructions, to be fair. So this has been a whole new experience for me, a very good one. So again, you've got a little flap, put your finger in, it's got a symmetry of 4. And actually, if you feel like, oh, I don't naturally do this, which is how I felt, that's exactly why you should do it, because you're pushing yourself to do something maybe that you are slightly outside your comfort zone. I've been very surprised as to how interesting this is. Even though it's instructions from others, you have to sort of understand yourself, and there's principles about forces and about how things work, and actually everyone's is a little bit different. It's an extraordinary process. And even within our bodies, I'm a scientist originally. Again, flicking through this book. So the things inside our body is all about folding. It's really run by proteins and how they fold up into beautiful shapes. It's origami, really. So again, this little pocket, pop your fingers in, squash it down to a straight line. Yeah, there we go. So I think it's always about something bigger, and there's always significance. I think, you know, flowers mean a lot to people. And I think one of the things which patients would say particularly is they love them as flowers because they don't die. And I think there's something about that that's very significant. We don't particularly like seeing flowers being cut, and that you'll see them fade and die, and that's a real shame. Whereas these flowers have lasted me for years and years. So it's a really good investment of time, and people comment on them more than real flowers. So we've got now this sort of, it looks like a kite, doesn't it? And it should all be neatly stacked up, as you can see. And so our next step is where it's the 2. If you had different coloured paper on different sides, you'd see this is 2 colours, but it's where there's that line through the middle. I want you to take the side and fold it in a straight line, and be really careful to try to get it just through the tip there. Again, being accurate will help, because later on it's a lot less likely to have problems if you've done it. Can you see I've really tried to get it through the tip there? Not sure it's really good, but it's worth getting it exactly sharp. It will help you. So it looks like that. Same thing on the other side, and then the same thing on all 4 sides. So there's a nice sort of repetition of patterns. I've tended myself to prefer flowers and this sort of lovely patterns. I think there's something very soothing about patterns. I've done less animals, but recently I've done a few. I have to say I've loved making a rabbit. That I thought was particularly gorgeous. There we go. So we've done that on one side. Again, turn it around to the back. So where it's got that line, you take the sides, so from the top, bring it in a straight line. Make sure that you're getting through that tip. Again, take your time. We're in no rush, which is a lovely thing. So this will probably be one of my most complicated ones that I'll show you. But don't worry, it's not that complicated. But it's worth the effort, I think, to make a beautiful flower. And this has actually been a special request. Quite a few people have been saying they want to learn how to make my flowers. And one person who I've not met, but has asked to learn, because she said she'd like to be able to make random gifts for people she doesn't know. I thought flowers would be a very good thing. There we go. So we've got these sides to do. So as I said, think of this as leaves of a book. You can leaf through, ignore the smooth side, get to a side which has got these lines there. And you might do the same at the back, actually, because it'll sit nicer as well. So again, folding, just flicking through the pages of your book. Then you've got to that. So actually it's like that on both sides now. So again, from the top into a straight line. The next step's very interesting. You'll see, I like to call it a bit mind-bending, and it makes it an interesting piece of origami. Here we go. But it's a lot of fun. And I think there's something about a little bit of a challenge, you know. I think this is something children would not find quite so easy. And it's also why it's very enjoyable and satisfying, because you know it's not super simple. But that makes it well worth doing. There we go. And how lovely, you can make your own flowers. Because I always have a big bunch of flowers in my room. And they still make me smile. There we go. I was able to make a lovely big bunch of flowers for a good friend who's in New Zealand for her wedding. And so I made her a big bunch of flowers, and it was lovely to see. She posted some pictures of it recently. That those flowers again are still being enjoyed. So again, that's something you could consider. Just again, making sure it's nicely through the tips. So hopefully it's like that, and again they're all matching in sort of width here. Right, the next step is an interesting one, and as I said, I call it a bit mind-bending. Be really patient and kind with yourself. It probably won't instantly be easy, but it's well worth sticking with, and it will work. So you've just got to be very patient and kind to yourself. So I like to think, this is just me, I like to think of opening a present, opening those flaps. Nice thing to think of. And then the top here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it down, and you need to sort of slightly reshape the sides. So you probably will need to put your fingers in to reshape it. And what you're trying to do is flatten it down, like so. Again, although you're watching me, it's only by doing it yourself on paper that you're going to start to understand how it works. And as I said, be very patient with yourself. So you can flatten it down, and then at the end, push it up. And this is what makes the lovely inside of the flower. So again, you've got repetition of another 3 sides to see. So hopefully you'll get what I mean. So I'm going to turn it around to another side. Again, opening a present. And then bringing the middle down. This is very interesting to do. For me, I'm facing the camera, so I can't even see what I'm doing. I'm sort of looking at a picture of my own hands, but thankfully I'm very familiar with this move. So again, I'm trying to reshape the sides. Get that. You can get it laying down flat, or this is already sort of sticking up a bit, which is ultimately what we want to do, is get it sticking up like that. Right, another 2 sides. So again, flicking through your pages of a book, and be very patient with this. I predict that you'll find it a little bit tricky at first. That's okay, it's to be expected. As I said, mind bending, but that's what makes it fun. Okay, so opening the flaps. I'm sorry, I can't be there touching your piece of paper and explaining, but I'm here in spirit. Right, so opening up the flaps. I'm also doing a live fold on Wednesday, as I said, so that could be a chance. Or if you're a colleague, you can also get in touch too. There we go. So I'm opening it up, slightly reshaping the sides, aiming for a point. You may find it's sort of a bit wide, in which case you've got to aim for this as a point. And it may work so that you can just have it flat down there. That's a tiny bit off, but not bad. Again, whilst you should be critical, you shouldn't be so critical that you end up not enjoying things. So it's that good old mix, as it is in life. There we go. And then pushing up. I think that'll work. That's right. And I've just got one more to do. So the back here. So opening up the flaps, opening up the present. I always recommend, if it's not going well, just close it all up again and then start again. Fresh new start. So opening it up, bringing down the middle, and you have to reshape these sides. I think that's fairly key. Reshape the sides, aim for a point, and then push it up. It's not so simple, and this is actually what makes it a slightly higher level of origami, but it's well worth the effort, I think. I'll try to face this to me actually. Again, it'll be because there's little wrinkles at the side. That's what can cause problems. So it's reshaping that paper and Just take your time with it and you will get there. The same as said for myself too. There we go. So it's kind of a point. It's what you're aiming for and then pushing it up. Great. So I hope that's worked. As I said, expect it to take you a little time, but you will get there. There's 4 sides, that's right. So if you, hopefully it's all stacked up nicely. Do make sure that you've done every side. So you may be able to sort of look down and you can see that you've done that. That's great. Just checking all 4 sides. So it's got symmetry 4. Right, so your next step is to leaf through that little book. See, that's slightly out. Only a little bit. The great thing with paper is you can just refold things so it's right. So you've got the bits that we've just done, hopefully just done. If you leaf through to a smooth side, keeping it the same way up, what we're going to do is we're going to fold from the bottom and it's tightening up the flower. If you did it from the other end, it would sort of make a very different shaped flower. So I recommend for lilies doing it this way. So if we've got it this way up with this point sticking up, then we're going to fold from the bottom there into the middle. We're almost there actually. You'll be relieved to hear. So folding into the middle, there's a few little layers. So I'm going to put it down, I'm afraid, for a second. And hopefully I can show you what I've done. Good old process, isn't it, this? I think origami takes you on a journey. So it's from the side and then folding it into the middle. I'll try and do that with the camera. So can you see? Folding that there into the middle. There we go. So again, leaves of book, actually we might as well just go to the back of it. Again, that keeps it a bit more balanced. So this bit sticking up, we're not touching that. We're leafing through to a smooth side. And again, folding it into the middle. Like so. And the same on the other side. After you've done this on all 4 sides, you have actually made your lily. It's like a flat pack flower. And then it'll be opening it up. But that previous step, do make sure you've done it on all 4 sides. If you haven't, you'll find it just won't open up. And that took me a while to realise early on. Why isn't it working? Because I'd forgotten one of the sides. So check each time that you've done things on all 4 sides. Again, tightening that up. Okay. And then there's just one bit sticking out. So again, Lizzie book, flip through to get to that side. And you'll see, because this has got so many folds in it, it is really worth getting those folds nice and tight. So it's all working well. That's it. And I think there's something of putting that pressure into the paper also releases some pressure too. There we go. And the other side. So hopefully it looks like that. And I'm going to show you how to open up your flower. So I thoroughly recommend either finding a pencil or a pen. I've got a nice pencil. I rather like, if it's a biro or a pencil, these kind of hexagonal ones, these little lines actually add a nice effect. I might bring this up so you can see. Here we go. So we're going to open up our flower. So to do that, I'm going to take a side. It's not perfect there. Never mind, it'll be all right. I don't want to be so critical that you stop enjoying it. That's right. So I'm taking the top of the petal and then rolling it around your pencil down to the point it naturally goes. So can you see? It won't go down any further unless you tear the paper, which I'm not going to do. And then let go. Can you see that's added a nice little curl? Right, the absolute key next is just to hold the petal. Everyone wants to hold the bottom of the flower because that's how we hold flowers, by the bottom, not by petals. But if you hold it, it cannot open up. It's really crucial. So do not hold the bottom of the flower. You have to almost unlearn what you normally would do. So just the petal, and again take the top of it and curl it round your pencil like so. There we go. Lovely. And then on to the next one. Petal there, and curling it around down there. And then onto the next one. So if I'm holding it, I'm just holding it really lightly, not squeezing it flat, because otherwise it's like a little box it needs to open up. And then again, this next petal, take the top of it and curl it around the pencil, gathering it up as you go along. That's right. And then let go. So hopefully you've got a gorgeous flower like that. Lovely lily. Now that in itself is beautiful, and that would be the traditional piece. It's just one piece of paper. How mind-boggling is that? And it's a good sized flower too, isn't it? But I think it would be good to show you how to make a stem, because that way you can make a big bunch of flowers. So quite soon it will stop then being the traditional, and it does involve glue. But I think it's forgivable. It does make a really nice piece, and this is how I was taught by Patience, so I'm following what she suggested, and it's gone down very well. So to make our stem. So again, from a piece of paper, I also have some green paper. I'm not going to show you green this time, I'm showing you with white. But if you have any green paper, it would be great for the stems, wouldn't it? So I'm again going to direct you down. Here we go. I think if we just use half the paper lengthwise, so if you simply fold it in half, corner to corner, enjoy being exact. I think it's one of those pleasures we rarely talk about, getting things right, but a lot of us really enjoy doing that. Particularly I think when things are a little bit out of our control, it's getting things very nice and controlled. It feels good. So we've got that. We've got that nice sharp fold. Again, I could do a little tiny nick there, hopefully. If it's well folded, tear it. There we go. So to make the stem up, first of all, make sure you've also got some glue. You could use sellotape, Pritt stick, PVA. If you have PVA, it's the best because it will last really well. Pritt stick, not quite so strong, but give it a go, it'll be fine. Sellotape, I think looks the least good because you'll see it's sellotape, but it's still possible. So these are all things that we have around the place. So I've got my glue ready. It's worth getting the top off already. So get your stem, and we're going to roll it around the pencil, which sounds really simple, but oddly, it takes a little bit of getting the knack of this. And a patient recently showed me a good way to do it. So I recommend getting one corner at the bottom, but getting it quite sort of almost quite lined up, fairly horizontal, but a little bit of a corner tucked there. Can you see? I'm just trying to gather it up a bit there. That way you've got something to grip hold of. So I'm beginning to roll it around this. If anything, you can press quite hard on the pencil. So if you do this from the middle, it's really hard to do. So, but getting it going at the corner will help. There we go. Press it down quite tight. Now, obviously, you need to get your pencil out. So you can hopefully gently pull it out. And our next step is to take the piece, is to twist it. I'm sort of tightening this end. I'm turning my hand round. And what it's doing is it will end up tightening one end and the other end a bit wider. It's not looking terribly obvious, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get one end that gets nice and narrow, because that's going to end up in the flower, whereas the other end can be a bit wider. And again, it's just like playing around. You'll feel it really strengthens as you roll it. It really strengthens it up. I should have, yeah, we've already got the glue ready. There we go. So that feels quite nice and tight. It's a bit like a straw or something. So there's a tiny little triangle, and all you need to do is put a tiny blob of glue there, and then you'll have made your stem I'll show you how to put it together. So I'm just adding a tiniest bit. Here we go. I'm pushing that on, and then just take a few moments just to hold it on there till it's stuck. That's great. Holding it on there. That feels good. Right, I'm also going to grab a pair of scissors next. A pair of scissors. And our next step's an interesting one. We're going to cut off the very bottom of our flower. Now, you can always cut more off, but you can't add it on. So go cautious. So here with my flower, I'm going to cut off just a little bit. It's not that much, and actually the hole's a lot bigger than it looks because it's like a concertina, it's all gathered up, but the actual hole is a bit bigger. So I'm going to cut off about that much from myself. It's just a little bit. And then if you put your fingers inside the flower, almost like wearing your flower, that starts to open up that hole. Can you see the hole's opening up a bit? And then take the narrow bit of your stalk, which is why it's good to make it as thin as you can at one end, and try and poke that in there. I've actually made my flower a little bit bigger than normal. You can make smaller or bigger flowers, up to you. And then I'm trying to poke that in. It's a bit like a procedure, this. That's right, so I've managed to get it inside there, and twisting it around, it can come through there. This is quite a nice big flower. There we go. So the stem bit is a bit hard to see. There it is. And if it was green, it looks rather good because you can sort of see that green inside there, which makes it look really good. There we go. So you might use a slightly smaller piece of paper actually for the head. This was to show you really, but this just looked nice. There we go. So the stem's there. So when you're happy about the height of it, that's looking nice, I'm going to bring it up a tiny bit and then put a circle of glue. Again, you could use Pritt Stick, you could use sellotape, but if you can, I would suggest using glue. And even Pritt Stick will work, but if you have PVA, it's the ideal. There we go. And then moving it down onto there. And then the next step is to squeeze it on with your fingers, so every direction really getting it to fuse together. Just letting glue dry. But like watching grass grow, isn't it? But hopefully in itself, again, it's taking time for yourself. There we go. So I think the finishing step is, at the moment it's a little bit obvious this has been made by twisting paper, so I would recommend cutting it off straight. It just makes it look a bit more professional, and hopefully you've got a flower of your own. And as I said, if you can use different coloured papers, maybe you could use wrapping papers, or if you've got any coloured papers or origami papers, you can make a big bunch, maybe different heights, different sizes of flowers, and you can keep it in a vase. You can even spray it with perfume so it smells nice too. And I hope that's worked for you. Just to recall that you can make loads of them and make your own bunch. So I hope that's been relaxing. I think that's probably the most ambitious one I'll share with you, but I think it's well worth it. And I really do hope you can make some flowers for yourself, and that it will be a lot of fun. Thank you very much, and I'll be back another week with another fold. Bye bye.